Hello, everyone, and welcome to Radical Thinker, the place where we challenge Western media narratives and perspectives. Today is April 23rd, and we are entering day 55 of the American and Israeli war imposed on the Islamic Republic of Iran. In the past 24 hours, the price of the oil jumped again to $106 per barrel after Donald Trump claimed that the Americans are going to meet the Iranian delegation in Islamabad for a second round of talks this Friday, which was consistently denied by the Iranian side. Tasnim News, which is an official news agency from Iran, said that there have been no official confirmations from Tehran. Iranian officials have maintained until now that no decision has been made regarding participation, and there has been no change in their current stance on the negotiations. For now, as long as the Americans are stubborn and they are going to continue to impose the naval blockade, I don't really expect the Iranians to return to the negotiating table, because if they are going to do this, it will only embolden the Americans to ramp up the pressure and come with more and more ludicrous demands for Iran. The Iranians for now seem to be very determined, and they don't want to give not even 1 inch to the Americans when it comes to the negotiations. They are correctly assessing the situation, and they know that they gained a lot during the period of the war, and it will be very hard for the Americans to obtain through diplomacy what they lost during direct hostilities with Iran. Therefore, Iran is going to play each card that it has very slowly and very carefully, very methodically. The Iranians are determined to reach an agreement which satisfies most of their terms and most of their objectives. And as I said, what they managed to win during the armed confrontation with the Americans and the Israelis is not going to be conceded easily during negotiations. Therefore, they are going to take their time, and time is flowing in Iran's favor, putting more and more pressure on the Americans and their Western allies. Yesterday, Mr. Kalibaf, which is the speaker of the Iranian parliament, wrote again on Twitter. He said, "A complete ceasefire only makes sense if it is not violated by the maritime blockade and the hostage-taking of the world's economy, and if the Zionist warmongering across all fronts is halted. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz is impossible with such a flagrant breach of the ceasefire. They did not achieve their goals through military aggression, nor will they through bullying. The only way forward is to recognize the rights of the Iranian nation," which is a reasonable declaration coming from the Iranian side. The only problem is the attitude of the Americans, which are still in a phase in which they are thinking that they can impose certain terms and conditions on the Iranians, which Iran is for sure not going to accept easily. Besides extending the ceasefire with a couple of days, the Trump administration has also announced yesterday through its Treasury Secretary that the sanctions exemptions for Russian and Iranian maritime oil have been extended for 30 days. This exemption is another crazy move from the Trump administration, because on one hand they are imposing a naval blockade on Iran in order to prevent Iran from selling its own oil, but on the other hand they are providing sanctions exemptions for the Iranian oil, which they are supposed to block and prevent from being sold on the international market. So this shows how chaotical and how crazy the administration in Washington is these days, because nothing that they are doing makes any sense. There is no logic behind it. One day Trump imposes a naval blockade to disrupt the Iranian economy and to shut down their ability to sell oil on the international market. Then they understand that without Iranian oil on the international market, the price of the barrel will go up because there is less oil available for purchase, and therefore they are coming back with sanction exemptions in order to allow somehow this oil, the Iranian oil, to be sold on the international markets to drop the price of the barrel of the oil. It makes completely no sense. This shows only how stupid Trump and his administration is playing this game with the Iranians. It is beyond ludicrous. I would say that it is even childish. According to multiple US officials which have spoken with CBS News, Iran's military is more capable than Trump administration is publicly acknowledging. Iran seems to maintain more military capabilities than the White House or the Pentagon have publicly admitted. About half of Iran's stockpile of ballistic missiles and its associated launch systems were still intact as of the start of the ceasefire in early April. Roughly 60% of the naval arm of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is still in existence, the official said, including fast attack speedboats. This is proving false the American administration's assessments that they managed to destroy most of the Iranian navy, and it was obvious that they are lying, because if Iran doesn't have a functional navy, being the Artesh, which is the regular army, and its navy, or the Revolutionary Guards and their own navy, they wouldn't have now the capability of controlling the Strait of Hormuz. And on top of that, the Iranians are still preserving their missile capabilities. They have a lot of underground missile cities which have not been penetrated by heavy American and Israeli bombings. These facilities are still operational, and during this ceasefire they had enough time to replenish their ammunitions and to rethink their strategy and plan for the second part of the war if the Iranians and the Israelis are going to restart the hostilities. An interesting development came from Somalia, which announced a ban on all Israeli ships passing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait. So before the Ansarullah from Yemen came to block the strait, it's Somalia making this announcement, which is slightly symbolic though, because Somalia does not control the territory bordering the strait anymore. Now it's being occupied by Somaliland separatists, which are pro-Israel. Returning to the Strait of Hormuz, Pentagon is claiming that Iran placed around 20 naval mines in the strait in order to direct shipping into its own corridor, and these mines could take up to 6 months to clear. 6 months to clear if Iran is going to allow for this to happen. Some days ago, the President of France, the Prime Ministers of Italy and the Great Britain gathered and discussed a plan on how to police the Strait of Hormuz after the end of this war. I think they are fantasizing. They don't have the capability to do so. And Iran has all the cards when it comes to the Persian Gulf and to the Strait of Hormuz. So if these European countries with colonial past and with dreams about having again international influence, if they are going to try to enter the Strait of Hormuz without Iranian approval, then this would be completely catastrophic for them. If the Americans don't have the ability to do this with their military might and their naval power, for sure Great Britain, France and Italy have nothing to say on this matter. This is probably obvious to anyone. And to prove that Iran is not playing games, the Revolutionary Guards Navy announced yesterday that it seized 2 ships attempting to violate the blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. The MSC Francesca and Epaminondes were both transferred to Iran's territorial waters until further notice. These are the same 2 ships that were fired upon yesterday, according to UK MTO. If they are catching ships who try to cross the strait, they are either firing at them or they are simply seizing them. And all of this happens at a time when the Americans are claiming to impose a naval blockade on the Persian Gulf. This should only show how weak the Americans are in this situation and how poorly they have planned all this war from the beginning. And the fact that they poorly planned, it's also reflected by the many cases of Pentagon officials which have been either fired or have resigned because they don't agree with the current situation and with the United States getting involved in a war with Iran for the benefit of Israel. Only yesterday we found out that the US Secretary of the Navy, John Phelan, has stepped down and he will be replaced with Undersecretary Hang Kao, which will become acting Secretary of the Navy. Most probably this resignation was forced by the Trump administration at the time when many military officials in the United States Army are showing their disapproval about being involved in this conflict. And more Army officers are going to resign in the following weeks and months. Many of them are fed up with the policies of the so-called Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, which is a moron and also a war criminal, whose only achievement is to kiss Trump's ass and to replace professional Army officers with experience with yes men which are going to do anything that Trump is going to ask. Everything now seems to be about loyalty to Trump, not loyalty towards the American Constitution, and it doesn't even have a strategic logic and a strategic mindset behind it. Everything is done for the whims of Donald Trump and indirectly for the interests of Israel. For now, this is my update for today. I'm looking forward to see how things are going to develop in the following hours. Please like, subscribe and also follow my content if you like it, and if you would like me to touch on certain subjects and you want me to analyze them, please write in the comment section of the Radical Thinker YouTube channel. Until tomorrow, I am wishing you all the best.